Thank you again for coming and participating on our second installment of what we call our Dean's Breakfast series. Dean Joyce Strawser, Dr. Joyce Strawser has again agreed to speak to our parents of students from Stillman, and we're very excited that she'll be sharing with you all the great things that are happening at the school. I just want to let you know that the university is also your university, and we need your support as well in regards to your time and your talent. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to be engaged. It could be coming to talk to our students in the classroom. If you're in finance or you're an accountant, I think they're always welcoming career advice and how to get to the point where you're at one point. So that's something that we're very interested in. We need your help. We have close to 10,000 parents all across the United States that can really bring a lot to the table to really enhance the reputation of the university, and you have been, especially sharing your most precious commodity, your sons and daughters who are excellent students at the university. One way you can be engaged is what we call our Parents Leadership Council, and these are members of our council are parents who are true ambassadors for the university. They're recruiting other parents to be engaged. They're opening their homes for receptions to welcome admitted students across the United States. They're always on campus and joining our events and giving feedback to our administration, especially to Dr. Esteban, to our provost, and to our respective deans. It's always important. You're hearing it from the street. You're hearing it from your students who are telling you, this is what's great, but also these are things that need improvement. And so we need that type of feedback. It's extremely important. And it's something that Dr. Esteban really wants, as he was a parent of a student who graduated here in 2013. So he's very sensitive to that. So again, we need your feedback, mostly positive feedback, hopefully. But we're always striving to improve. But you play a major role in that as well. The other thing as well, there's a real nice opportunity for you to volunteer in the month of March. We have a challenge that's going on, and it's in conjunction with alumni relations. We're trying to call 1,000 admitted students, our class of 2019, on March 21st. We have alumni. We also have parents that are going to be calling, just to welcome them, to share your experience, to talk to parents who might have questions, which they will have. So if you're interested in doing that, you could also call from the comfort of your home. What we will do is share a mailing list with phone numbers, and also a script that you can use as well. We really need your help, so that's one way we can be engaged as well. So again, thank you for coming. This is one component that you see out there. It's our True Blue loyalty program, and so this is one component. You attended an event, so we stamp you there for that. So you can become a True Blue member. Another way, there's 4 components. It's attending an event, volunteering your time. The other is making a contribution to the university as well, as small as $25, or if you want to endow a scholarship at $50,000, you can do that as well. But there's a lot of opportunities to become a True Blue member. The other is just sharing your contact information, updating your emails, your phone numbers, your addresses. That's the other way. And then just showing your pride, just wearing a Seton Hall t-shirt, going to a basketball game and supporting the team. So those are the 4 components of becoming True Blue. And I think most of you already are. So again, thank you for being a part of that. I'm going to introduce Joyce Strawser right now. Last year we did a whole bio, and I thought that was great. But I got a really nice email last night from a parent who couldn't come, but she wanted me to share this with Joyce, and I think it's fitting because it's really a testament to Dr. Strawser's leadership here at Stillman. So I'll just share that with you. She just says, "Thank you. It is incredible for her as a dean to be on a first-name basis with so many of the Stillman students. As a leader, she's accessible, involved, and supportive of students. She helps set the tone for all the business school faculty and has made Seton Hall a great home for my daughter. Best wishes, and thank you, Dean Strawser." And I'd like to introduce Dean.
Thank you. Oh, I feel very humbled by that. great to see so many of you here. This, I think, is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful program, and I enjoy hearing what you have to say and your concerns as well as sharing with you what's going on at the school. So I'm going to start off by just giving, first let me ask this question. How many of you were here the last time we did this? Okay, so a couple. Was that just last year, Sandra?
Last year, end of January.
January, okay. And then my second question is, I wonder how many of you have had, in addition to the son or daughter you currently have at Stillman, how many of you have other children in college? Okay, so a couple. All right, so I think there's a lot of good sharing that can go on among parents too. So a lot of probably what you'll learn from being connected with parents. And I think that's another benefit of being part of the parents' organization. But I'll start off just by giving you a little bit of the landscape to tell you a little bit about Stillman. Currently, spring semester, we are at 1,200 students, technically 1,202 students. We have 863 undergraduate students and 339 grad students. So at the grad level, we do an MBA, but we also do 2 masters in accounting. One for folks who have an undergraduate degree in something other than accounting. And then our second one, our professional accounting program, is that 5th-year program that students take to get to the number of credits they need for qualification as a CPA. All right, now let me ask you this question. What do you think is our largest undergraduate major? We have 8 majors.
In the entire?
For a business school. Largest undergraduate major.
Accounting?
The answer is finance. So number 1 is finance. Number 2 is accounting. And number 3 might surprise you because it's just taken over as 3. That's marketing. Okay? So our 4th, coming in right under marketing, is sport management. Now what we did a couple years ago, so all of your children would have the benefit of this, but what we did is we changed our curriculum so that the liberal arts requirements that we used to have were converted into general elective credits. And what that means is that most students have the ability to do 2 concentrations in the same degree period. So for the same number of credits, they can major in 2 different concentrations. And about 25% of our students do that. And we found that to be very valuable because there are a number of concentration areas that seem to complement each other quite well. So for example, sport management, we do generally encourage students to get a second major there. So sport management and perhaps marketing work well together. Finance and economics. From my view, accounting and finance. So all of those blend together quite nicely. Okay, then in terms of the rest of the community, we've got 5 administrators, we've got 7 staff members, 49 talented faculty members, and we use each year about 50 adjunct faculty members. Now our adjunct faculty, I think, are quite different from some of the adjuncts that are used in other areas or at other universities, in that ours are professionals who are coming in to teach a specific course in their area of expertise. So, we would have somebody from Wall Street teaching a course on investment banking. We have somebody who does market research, teaching a course on market research. So we're trying to do what we can to make sure that students have the most talented and the best experienced faculty members in the classroom. Thanks a lot. Okay, so one thing I'm sure you all know is that we are accredited by AICSB International. So we have the distinction of having both business program accreditation and accounting program accreditation. And you may wonder, well, if I'm not in accounting, why do we even care that the school has accounting accreditation? The truth is, I think what it reflects is our goal to strive for every specific accolade, the highest quality that we can get. So in the entire world, there are about 13,725 schools that have business programs. And about 1,624 are in the United States. Of that number, about 700 have business program accreditation. And 181 only have both business and accounting. So we're one of 181 in the entire world to have those credentials. One of only 2 in New Jersey. We're quite excited about that, and it does take a lot to maintain that because there are standards that must be met, and they must be met now by the business school and by the accounting department. And as a matter of fact, earlier this week, so this has been a big week for us, earlier this week, we had our accreditors visit us. So we were visited by our peer review team. And although the results are not official, because it has to go first to a committee, has to be ratified, I can tell you that the report that we received from our accreditors was a positive recommendation to extend our accreditations. And they had some very nice comments. So one gentleman, and I won't disclose his identity, said to me, I've worked at 3 Catholic universities, because on these teams, what they try to do is get deans of schools that are like your school. So we typically have private universities of similar sizes to ours, generally with some religious affiliation, typically Catholic or Jesuit. But he said, I worked at 3 Catholic universities. He said, and the level of engagement here is not just greater, but it is significantly greater. He said, the engagement you have with faculty, with students, with your alumni, with all your stakeholders, he said, it's really amazing. He said, I don't know how you guys do it. So we were quite proud when they left, and we're looking forward to building on some of the recommendations they had, but continuing our strengths. I did want to mention one of the things that we've done recently, just to kind of give you some context for our goals and the things we'd like to do more of. We revised our mission statement to focus most specifically on what we do. So our mission statement says that we are going to enrich each student's life through an ethics-centered education, focusing on transforming concepts into business practice. So it's a really simple mission. And there are 2 things that are central to what we do then. It's the focus on ethics, and we specifically said not just ethics curricula, but an ethics-centered education. So that brings in things like the required service that students do, the integrity and professionalism convocations that we have. And we're trying to do more and more with our faculty to make sure that in every course, in every discipline, students are appreciating the ethical dilemmas that they would face as a finance professional, as a marketing professional, as someone who works in IT, because all of these things, and certainly as somebody who has a field that has something to do with law, all of these things are loaded with ethical implications and dilemmas, and we want our students to be prepared for that. The second thing, of course, is the transforming concepts into practice. So that's the applied learning angle. And I'm sure you all have seen we have what we call 4 applied learning centers. Our market research center, which you can look into right now, this is the observation room for the focus group work that's done here. So if you went in there, you could actually go in and watch the finance faculty holding their meeting right now, unless they've drawn down the shades. And if they haven't disabled the microphone, we can even hear what they're talking about. But we have done more than 350, we've had more than 350 students who've done projects there. And I brought a little item to show and tell. How many of you are golfers? Okay, so
This conference will now be recorded.
we'll ask your opinion then. So this is something that was invented and patented by one of our alums. It's called Mark the Spot. And here's what you do with it. You take an old golf ball and you put it up here for weight. And so as you're playing golf, and I'm not a golfer, so I'll tell the story the way it was told to me. So as you're playing golf, if you hit it out into the rough, you throw this with the weight and it marks the spot where your ball landed. So that way you don't have to, as other people are playing through, you don't have to be concerned about where your ball is or spend any time looking for it. Somebody who's out there can throw that. Okay, so what they want to do is really they want to market this nationally. So they've done a little bit. They produced this. You can see this one doesn't have another logo, but for some of them they put country club logos. You could put a school logo. So this project is being worked on by our Market Research Center. So we've got a group of students who are holding focus group sessions with golfers, with people who are not golfers but are friends or relatives of golfers, to see, is there demand for something like this? And what would somebody pay for it? So the jury's still out. But this is one of the things that they would do there. And what it does is it puts students in the role of being consultants. And they have clients who are someone outside of the business school. So they're actually doing a professional service. And in our trading room, which is right downstairs below us, we have 12 Bloomberg terminals. So students are learning how to use Bloomberg to do research. And they're actually teaching courses in there. So we've got courses that run in there where the faculty member can pull up live data. And so all of these things are designed to make sure that when your students graduate, they will have the maximum preparation for their careers as business professionals. So that we're not going to have to worry about where they're going to place. You know, as a business school dean, I think you sleep well at nights. You don't feel bad about telling students business is a great career. So we just learned that our six-month placement rate for the class of 2014 is 95%. And over the last 4 years, we've been 91, 95, 93, and again 95. So students who look and are conscientious about working through their curriculum, making contact with the Career Center, have no problems getting jobs. And we do have, of course, in business, some of the highest salaries across campus. So that, again, does make me feel good about what we're doing. I think we're delivering value for the degree. But also a lot of the personal touch. So a hallmark of what we do here is that connection between faculty and students. We are interviewing finance faculty now, and we really want talented researchers, of course. But the message that I always deliver when I speak to faculty is, you've got to be invested in our students. If you're not interested in spending time talking to students, if you're not interested in being an advisor to a club, connecting students with business professionals, this is not going to be a good fit for you, because we need people who can do that, and our students deserve that. Our career professionals, I don't know if your sons or daughters have described the process of working with the Career Center, but each area we have, each discipline, is covered by a particular Career Center professional. So when an alumnus calls me, or an alumna calls me and says, I've got a job opportunity, I know I can get someone on the phone, and they will actually say to me, well, okay, Vaughn Johnson would be good for that. Or, okay, let's see, in finance, if we're looking for somebody who's not yet connected, somebody who wants corporate, well, maybe that would be Matthew Gogan. So they know everybody by name, and they know what the students are interested in, what their strengths are, and where they are in terms of their career path. About 75 to 80% of our students do have an internship experience. Let me just talk a little bit about some of the things that we're working on now going forward, new things. You probably have all heard thrown about this expression, big data, right? So the challenge here in business is that there is so much more information available now, and it's available in more challenging formats. So anytime are you guys all active on Twitter? So anything you tweet, right, anything you post on Facebook, anything that's blogged, all of that is rich data that's available out there for someone to leverage. So what we need in business are people who can take that data from the sort of messy sources and these varied and huge data mines that we've got, and extract that, make sense of it in terms of an analysis, and then draw conclusions. So one of the things that we are adding, right now working on adding to our undergraduate program, is a competency in data analytics. So what we're saying is every Stillman student should have a capacity, should have a knowledge of and an ability to analyze data. And we're not trying to make them all into coders or into statisticians, but what we want to do is we want them to be able to identify the opportunities available with data, to look at reports generated by someone else and draw the appropriate conclusions. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, be able to communicate that well. And one of the things, speaking of communications, one of the things I think we're able to do is we get your students on their feet. So students are working in teams, they're making presentations, they're getting a lot of opportunity to practice those skills that are going to be so important to them as they move into the work world. So the more we can do that, the better off we are. We've started encouraging students more and more to compete in external competitions. So we do now our Johnson & Johnson business case competition. Our on-campus round is going to be next Tuesday, I think. Tuesday the 3rd. So several teams of our students will be competing for the Seton Hall winner, and then we'll go on, that Seton Hall team is going to go on and compete at Johnson & Johnson in New Brunswick against universities across the country. We just learned that our CFA Research Challenge team made it to the Final Four. So that's a team of 1 undergrad and 3 graduate students. And what they're doing is analyzing, each year they analyze a different company, and this year it's JetBlue. So they have to analyze the company, make a recommendation. So they are going to be competing against, I think the Final Four this year is Fordham, Rutgers, NJIT, and Seton Hall. And we play in a very talented field. So think about this New York metropolitan area and all the wonderful schools that are here. So for Seton Hall to be in the top 4 really says something. We also this year have a new competition for market research called Pirate's Pursuit. So students are being given some data on market research, a case scenario, and they are presenting a case analysis and recommendations to a client for a competition here. And a number of students are doing that one. And then finally, actually 2 more. This will be our 5th year, I think, for our Pirates Pitch Venture Fund competition. So students who have business ideas take those, they bring them to a team from our Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, and they get some feedback and guidance. Those who have plans that the judges feel are worthy of advancing, and we narrow it down to about 7 or 8, those 2 student teams will make pitches, formal pitches, on April 10th. So any of you who would like to see that, you're more than welcome to attend our Pirates Pitch event. We have actually venture capitalists and some of our own entrepreneurial alumni who will be there as judges. And a couple of years ago, our 2nd place winner, or the winner a couple of years ago, actually last year was the top student, was the prize winner in the Student Startup and Southwest competition. So he took the whole thing, and he's got an app that maybe you've seen. It's called Notefully. It's a virtual sticky or post-it note. So you have this app on your phone, and as you walk through specific areas, a post-it note will pop up to remind you of something that you're supposed to do or buy or finish somehow. So he was on the front cover of our alumni magazine recently. So our Center for Entrepreneurial Studies has been here for the last couple of years as well. All right, let me just ask you, what kinds of things would you like to cover or talk about, or do you have questions? I've got some more that I could say, but I'd like to hear from you about some things that you're most interested in, or areas you'd like to hear about.
Well, you mentioned issues of ethics, and ensuring that our students are prepared, adequately sensitive to it. One of the things that I'm noticing in the public sector is a criticism of situations like the General Accounting Office, that they don't really know what they're doing, or they're not really following up when they ought to be accounting, or looking at whether a contract is being done in an appropriate way. And so therefore you hear a lot of criticism about government's too big and it doesn't know what it's doing. So I'm just curious as to whether or not the business school has ever considered doing some sort of focus or attention to the training of people for those types of jobs and the issue of ethics, so that work can be done, can be properly assessed, and rather than have a lot of inadequacy or poor workmanship, if you will, they say there's a lot of waste in government, so sort of eliminate that waste, so that, because the government needs to do a lot of things for us. But if you keep on trying to reduce the size of government because they think it's just the size of government is the problem, I think it's also a question of accountability, whether the government is doing a proper job. And I think it's subject to a lot of criticism, and rightly so. But in terms of that sector of accounting, if you will.
So are you talking about something, continuing professional education, for example, for those types of professionals?
Yes, it's
Okay.
either that or in preparation, preparing better individuals for those careers
Right.
to be able to do a better job, so that to reduce the kind of criticism that the government receives for doing a poor job.
See, I think it's important for us to prepare, just generally, all business students to be principled leaders. And there's some people whose philosophy is, I don't think you can teach ethics. So some people take the position that students come to us, obviously they're 18 years old, they've had not a whole life, but they've had a significant amount of life experience. You guys have done your work with them. They come to us and we really can't do much. I don't believe that. I believe that it's about practicing these things. So, you don't want to be faced with a decision about how you're going to react to a particular case or scenario when you're in the workplace for the first time. I think you want to be presented with some hypothetical scenarios. You want to actually hear from people in the profession who face these challenges and how they reacted. So I think one of the things we're really trying to do is get faculty to feel more comfortable with and to have more of a template for bringing this in regularly. So for saying to accounting students, listen, it's your responsibility to figure out the financial impact of something, but you also have to look at the position of, and what does this do to other people outside who are non-internal to this organization? What effect will this have on stakeholders? So specifically making students think through this and giving them strategies for how you handle some pressureful situations. So one that's commonly encountered, I think, by young professionals is somebody at a higher level is pressuring them to do something that they know is wrong. So having thought about that, having done a role play with that, having looked at cases or heard from speakers about, well, what are some of your options and how should you handle that, I think is helpful. I know that there's something inside of us that makes us who we are, but you can help develop and practice those attributes too. So that is something we are working to try to do for all of our majors. But in accounting, it's particularly important given the roles that they have and the professional requirements that they have.
We also have 6 parents that called in, and I don't know if any of them had a question for Joyce as well.
Any questions from the phone? Let me talk a little bit about, and of course, anything you have, just stop me as I'm going along. Let me talk a little bit about one of the things I think that we do that perhaps students should take more advantage of, and that is the organizations that we have. We have a number of student organizations. So we've got an accounting club, we've got an investment club, we've got a finance club, we've got a marketing club, we've got two actually entrepreneurial studies organizations. We have an APICS club. I don't know if you're familiar with APICS, but it's an operation management supply chain organization. So and then we have Alpha, which is a general business club. So we have all of these organizations. And the wonderful thing about getting involved in them is that, first of all, students meet other students. And they meet other students who are upperclassmen, right? So one way that they can get information and get help and get mentoring is by their peers at the upper levels. The second thing is these clubs invariably structure programs around professionals who come in. And of course, we are really very fortunate to be in the area we're located in where we can get folks coming in from Manhattan to speak. So it's not a problem at all for us to get speakers, many of whom are our own graduates, to come in. And so they're learning about the profession and they're making connections. So it's pretty common that what will happen is that a student will meet somebody who's made a presentation, they'll impress that person, and next thing you know, they've got an internship or an opportunity for a full-time position. And then the final thing is, we've got, I want to say it's 20 Stillman organizations. These are great leadership opportunities. So students who get involved in these organizations in the early years become, of course, the president, the vice president, the treasurer, secretary of these organizations later. And they develop some really meaningful leadership experience, and they develop the opportunity to talk about how they've managed people and managed conflict. So all these things are great. My husband was a music major in college, and I can tell you that didn't have quite the traction that you But when I used to say something about the accounting club is doing such and such, he would roll his eyes at me, like, oh, are you kidding me? People go to the accounting club?
Has joined the
But
conference.
of course they do, and they have a great time, and they meet a lot of good people. So these clubs and organizations are really important. So if your son or daughter is not maximizing that opportunity, I would suggest that they do. And one of the things we train the upperclassmen to do is try to bring in the freshmen, the sophomores. So try to make connections there, make them feel comfortable, because sometimes it is hard to come into a club or an organization where you don't already know someone. But this is what you want to be developing. Yes, please.
Our son transferred into the business information technology management. And it's not as clearly defined, obviously, as accounting or finance. What kind of careers is that major leading to?
Okay. You know, the interesting thing about IT management is we can employ every single IT major we get, and for whatever reason, students haven't flocked to that major. I think they look back at the dot-com bubble, and I think it makes them a little nervous about that. But there really are so many opportunities. Any of the big corporations need people who are IT savvy, who can build systems, who can do the type of that data analytics that I described, who can set up those systems. So we've got, most recently I would say our biggest employers have been Prudential, Johnson & Johnson. So they really do have a variety, and almost any business is going to use those or need those IT skills and those IT professionals. So I can tell you, let me see, I got with me the Career Center report talking about where
Has joined the
students
conference.
have most recently landed there, and Kohl's, Prudential Financial, Verizon Wireless, so Horizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, so those have been some of the opportunities that students have had there. But they do have, it is a broader field. So it's not as, I would say, the one that's most defined is accounting. So everybody pretty much knows what the opportunities in accounting are. But you know, we actually have some of our professionals in accounting who say, what I really do is more about IT. So at Ernst & Young, we have an alumnus who's saying, I'd like to see more of the folks that you have doing that kind of work. So we encourage those students to get involved with some of the speakers we have in Beta Alpha Psi, which is our accounting, finance, and IT honors organization. But you know what? I just saw the department chair, Dave Rosenfeld, walking around. So if he comes by again, I'll ask him to pop his head in and say hello. Yeah. And I do think that's an important thing about being involved in some of these, because you know, every day the types of things that employers are looking for changes a little bit. So marketing now is all about social media. You know, 5-6 years ago, that's not something we would have thought about quite as much. But now we're offering a lot of social media courses and making sure that we have students prepared for that type of profession. Yes, please.
You had mentioned before about making connections. We're Florida bound, and my junior here is not real sure he's joining us because he's very concerned about the job issue. In terms of making Seton Hall connections in Florida, should he go to like the alumni office and look into that, or is that something for the business school he should? You know, we're hoping that he'll see that there are people who have, you know, university jobs from Seton Hall who are in Florida who need to connect with.
Oh no, and I would say both. So I'd say, because probably the first thing I would do is, if somebody says, I'm looking for a position in Florida, I would see, okay, go to alumni and say, who do we have, who's in Florida, who's in this area?
Okay.
So, and we do happen to have a lot of very successful alum who live in Florida. So that's an area that we do a lot of visiting to, a lot of the president's receptions are held there. So that's an area that does have a pretty strong Seton Hall network. And that's what you want to do. You really want to leverage your network.
Absolutely.
You know, with employers too. So often students who have gotten an offer from an organization, let's say one of the big four, or an organization that's headquartered here, can find that it's pretty easy after doing an internship to get a recommendation for a different office of the same organization. So I would say that too, is while he's here and talking with employers, asking them about opportunities for transfer to other areas. Yeah, but I would say, tell them, you know, come to see me and I can connect them with some alum. Our alumni are very eager to talk with students. You know, you think, you know, and we're very grateful for the work that they do. It's a big service. And nice part of it is, it's a win-win. They enjoy talking with students. So it's wonderful to have a young person who's at a university, you attended, and doing different things, exciting things that you didn't even imagine when you were a student, and to be asked to give advice. Everybody loves to be asked to give advice. So our alums are quite eager to talk with students and share some insights and advice that way. In fact, another thing that we've really worked on is increasing the opportunities for mentorship. So now we have an opportunity for every student from sophomore through senior year to have personalized mentoring. We do a specific sophomore mentoring initiative that we start in the fall. And then for juniors and seniors, we have what we call the corporate development mentoring program. And any student who simply says, I want to be part of this, I want to be part of it. And typically what we do is put two students together. And that way, the students feel a little more comfortable about meeting with someone they might not have met before. And they usually meet here one time, they'll usually meet at the mentor's office one time, they'll talk, they'll email, they'll develop relationships. So we hope will continue indefinitely. Because I'm sure you see this in the workplace as well. But to me, one of the greatest changes I've seen over the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years is the traditional structure for hiring has changed quite a bit. So firms are not doing the thing they used to do. I won't even go back to my days, but the thing they used to do 5 to 7 years ago, which is I'm going to come to the university, fall of the senior year, I'm going to spend all day interviewing candidates. No, what they want to do now is I want to get students in as sophomores, I want to bring good talented people back as juniors, and then I want to make offers for my internship candidates. So a lot of offers come through internships. And it makes a lot of sense for both the employer and the student. So an internship is a way of sort of trying something on. So the line I typically use is, you would never buy an item of clothing without trying it on. You're really not going to go to a job without having tried it first. I mean, that's the beauty of doing these internships. We've had some students come back and say, you know what, I really liked the accounting classes, but the firm, no, this is not for me. And so in their last year, they changed their major. So it's something really you should encourage all students to do. 2 of our concentrations require internships, sport management and management. The others should. So it should be viewed, I really try to push this, it should be viewed as a maximum mandatory requirement for students to do at least one internship. I'm sorry, I know.
Liz, the data analytics, I was so excited when you brought that up because I know that's such an up-and-coming field. How are you going to make it a concentration? I mean, what's your thought process behind how are you going to get it into the curriculum?
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make it a competency. So what we do in terms of our learning goals is we say we have 7 competency areas. So our competencies for the undergraduate program, the first one is business discipline knowledge. So they have to have a grounding in each one of the business discipline areas. The second is communications, both oral and written communications. Then we emphasize critical thinking. Okay, then we emphasize teamwork. So we develop teamwork skills. And what we do is we assign these areas to individual classes. So when you're teaching accounting, you know that your competencies are critical thinking, communication, okay? And then if you're teaching, for example, management, you know that your competencies include critical thinking, communication, and teamwork. So we have it all throughout the curriculum. Okay, so I stopped, I didn't do them all. Oh, technology, and then ethics and social responsibility. So those are the 7 that we have now. What we would do is we would add this data analytics as an 8th. And what that means is we would cover in individual business core courses and in our various concentrations, we would cover some content that relates to business analytics. So you might have to do a project in your marketing class that takes data and takes it from a raw form, analyzes it, reports on it, communicates about the recommendations. The other thing that I want to do, though, so we put it in as a competency and then make sure we're developing students throughout the program. Where I see it going, hopefully, is to its own concentration and perhaps ultimately its own graduate degree. So that's sort of the long game for me, is that once we get it developed as a competency, I'd like to have a concentration in data analytics and then ultimately a master's in data analytics. Because I think it's just that important. And skills that I think someone would assume that a business person should have to a certain extent. The same way that you should understand accounting, the same way that you should be savvy about some marketing principles and management. Anything else? Oh, and by the way, every Sunday, and you may or may not know this from your children, but every Sunday I send out an email to students and I say, here's what's going on this week. So I tell them, Monday through Friday, here are the things that are happening. And I gather this from the clubs and the organizations and from reading what's outside of the elevators, but they have a little plan. So if they tell you there's nothing going on, that may be true of spring break or finals week, but any other week, there's a lot to do. So, and they know what it is. So I try to send that out every Sunday, just so I figure, when I first started this, I sent it out Friday night. And then, of course, what they revealed to me is, nobody's paying attention to anything you say on Friday night. But Sunday, they're starting to think more about what's going on and thinking about their work and perhaps even starting to do some of their work at that point. So that's one way we keep up. And we do send announcements to students about other things that are going on intermittently, but the weekly update is something that they can count on. And we have a lot of wonderful, again, blessed because of our location, a lot of wonderful speakers that we can attract. So on the, I think it's the 24th of March, we are going to be hosting Eric Cassabury, who is president and CEO of Retro Fitness. Does anybody know or use Retro Fitness? And Let's Yogurt. He was actually featured on Undercover Boss on an episode. I haven't seen the episode yet, but I'll have to watch it. But anyway, a dynamic business leader who's an entrepreneur. And he'll have an exciting story to tell. So that's our Integrity and Professionalism Convocation on March 24th. You're more than welcome to attend as parents. We'd love to have you at any of our programs.
Can any of the students go to that? I mean, just at will, or they have
Oh, absolutely. So we encourage them. And in fact, often what we do is we will have the subject, we encourage faculty to embed the subject of our IMP convocation into their classes. We have the most success when it is a consumer product company. So for example, last fall we had Denise Morrison from Campbell Soup. And when she was here, faculty did a lot of different things. So you can imagine in marketing, that would be a great topic. In finance, they were analyzing ratios for Campbell Soup. In accounting, they were looking at the footnotes. So that's something I'd like to do more and more, is to get somebody who would come speak and have classes really focused in different ways on that company or that leader. And in terms of ethics and social responsibility, the fact that Campbell's has its location in Camden and is not pulled out of the Camden area. So there are a lot of great issues there that you can extract from just having a speaker come. And then students, when they're informed about what's going on in the company, ask better questions. They have more to say, they're more interested. Any other questions or areas that you'd like me to address?
First, that new program with parents reaching out to prospective students have been approved for Seton. In other words, they've been accepted by Seton Hall.
Oh, right.
And you're trying to capture them.
Yep.
Because you're competing against Villanova, Penn State, other
Right.
schools.
Those are your schools.
Just no. But what is the current fallout rate? Is there some metrics that you're saying we're currently use this? Our new goal is something
Okay,
like
gotcha.
that.
So it's really been interesting. You probably know that the schools are getting very competitive. You probably know that the high school population, I think, is going to reach its lowest level in 2016. So everybody's concerned about this. And particularly, we're losing growth in high school students here in the Northeast region. So what our admissions area is trying to do is reach out more to areas where high school graduates are still growing, or if not declined as greatly, and that would be more in the South. So my home state of Texas, for example. And so we're doing a lot more outreach to Texas, California, some other places. And we've been pretty successful there. We've seen a significant increase in applications. And I was looking at our data the other day. We were looking at, from last year even, about a 15% increase at this time in accepted students. So the key is what you spoke about, the yield. So getting the students to come here. And in the admissions area, it's been very challenging recently because What used to happen is you had a pretty good idea of, if this many students are accepted, this will be your yield. But it's become easier and easier through the common application, and just through the whole commoditization of the college search process, that students are applying to so many more schools than they used to. So we can't say until they deposit that we've got a really good feeling about what our yield will be. The Stillman School yields historically about 20% of its accepted students. So over the last couple of years, it's been 20%. Last year, we had a dip to about 18%. You know, not sure why, but one hypothesis I have, and we'll see how this plays out, is last February, we had to cancel our open house. It was a winter much like this one. So we had one open house that was canceled. And my feeling about Stillman is that you see so much of Stillman when you visit. When you are here, when you see our faculty, when you talk with our students, when you see our facilities and you see what we do, that's when you really understand the power of Stillman. It's, in some ways, it's an undiscovered gem. And I think that our reputation hasn't yet reached our quality. It hasn't caught up with the quality that we have. So for example, I mentioned, my son's at Villanova, okay. I don't think he's ever even met his dean. And no offense to the dean, who's a great guy. It's just a different focus. And we're sort of like, I can't remember the old Carbonell commercial, we try harder. We're number 2, so we try harder. We're like that, we try harder. The faculty here are invested in the students. We're always trying to think of ways we can make this better. One of the things that we do at Stillman that I'm sure some of your children are involved in is the Dean's Advisory Committee. So I just call students for meetings a couple times a year and I say, tell me what you think we can be doing better. Tell me what we should add. And these students actually help us with some of that yield that you mentioned. So, Sandra, I know you wanted to talk about.
And again, we have parents, I think we have about 18 parents that are hosting at their homes across the United States. As far as Honolulu, Hawaii, I think we had about 33 accepted students from Honolulu.
Wow.
I don't know why they would leave. But they'll find out because this is the reputation of the university.
I would like to start.
But we're excited about that. But in California, we have parents hosting in 4 areas in Southern California. We had about 300 accepted students from California, which we're excited about. In Texas, it's your home state. We had a yield event in Katy, Texas, which is the Houston suburb. Again, we had about 40 accepted students there. Dallas, Texas, we'll have one in late March. Chicago, we're going to be in Maine. We're going to be in Seattle, Oregon. So these are parents that are helping us, current parents that are opening their homes to talk to these students and their prospective families and say, this is the place for you. And this is how parents have played a major role in helping us recruit these wonderful students that are coming from all over the United States. So just think about it. Next year, this might be an opportunity for you as well to open up your home. We do send-off receptions in August and late July. So if you're interested in that, feel free to give me a call. But parents have been extremely vital in regards to helping us yield these students that are going to be hopefully the next beautiful class that we're going to have in 2019. So.
I have a question to follow up on your last point, but firstly I'd like to say as parents of a sophomore here, you really want to thank you and congratulate you because it's been, Seton Hall has been a tremendous place for our son, and all the things that you said about the opportunities here, internships, clubs, programs, it's really been exceptional. You mentioned, competition really and commoditization and how easy it is for kids to apply. And in this area, there are a lot of Catholic schools, right? Similar size. Who do you view as, your kind of strongest competition? And I agree with your point. I think, the Stillman School is really a hidden gem, right? I mean, you do such a great job. The placement figures that you mentioned, 95%, it's really extraordinary. In a challenging business environment.
And everybody is so much a part of that. So, when we point to the different things that faculty take time to sit down with students and guide them, the Career Center, and they, by the way, have an office up here, so students don't even have to leave their own building to see them. So everybody's part of that. But what I would say is year after year, our students, we always look at where students we accepted end up going if they don't come to us. Okay, and typically our biggest competitors are, first of all, TCNJ. So TCNJ has a very strong program, and we lose a lot of students to TCNJ. Bentley is another one to which we lose a lot of students. St. Joe's, Villanova, so sometimes St. John's. I have a very good friend who's dean of the business school at St. John's, and I always feel like, John's! I went with her to see the women play, and I was sure our women's team was going to beat St. John's, but that wasn't one of their successful meetings, unfortunately. but yeah, so it tends to be a lot of those schools. Rutgers sometimes, but Rutgers is not on the higher end of that. But we do lose some students to Rutgers. You know, sometimes it's about the competitive scholarships. So we're finding that, it's interesting, our admissions director was saying that it used to be that students, when we would make them an initial offer as a freshman for a merit scholarship, students would come with an offer from a school that we didn't consider to be a peer and say, but I got more. And the VP of admissions will say, well, but you're not, you're going to a different type of school. You're not going to Stillman. And now what we're finding is institutions that we consider aspirant schools. So Fordham will be giving somebody a really nice package and maybe a little more than we did. So that shows us a little bit about that competition for students and what we're seeing. And they're also making extra offers after the fact sometimes. So you can sense that there's a little bit more of, I don't want to say desperation, but a little more recognition that you can't just sit back as we did before and sort of wait for applications to come in. You really have to work hard at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
My youngest son will be in September class. He applied to St. John's. And the offers for the merit scholarship were identical.
Oh, okay, interesting, exactly the same.
Yeah, but difference is St. John's is $10,000 a year more.
And their program,
It's based.
it seems like it's really based off of your program. Maybe because we've been aware of your program more, because we have it in the summer, but
It's sports
it
management.
almost looks like it's,
Because if they didn't have one 3 years ago.
Right.
And they recently started a sports management program. And it is in their business school as opposed to, so a lot of schools, it is in their
Yes,
business
that's
school.
true.
And if you read the syllabus, it's almost identical. As far as they copied it from Seton.
And they're different.
She's been spying on us.
It's true, and we share, there's a lot of intelligence that goes around. I enjoyed actually being a parent and attending all these things as a parent, because then I'm saying, oh, now this is good, we can do something like this, or, oh, we do this better. So that was fun. Yes, please.
I like the sound of the power of Stillman as something you might want to capitalize as for your promotions,
Well, and
The power of Stillman really sounds really good.
Power of Stillman.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is going to be, this is. So 2015 is Stillman's 65th anniversary as a school. We somehow, and I was here, but we didn't really celebrate the 50th. I don't know why. And so I'm telling my colleagues, I don't know where we're going to be for the 75th, so I'm going to celebrate the 65th. So maybe we'll use the power of Stillman as our rallying cry for the 65th anniversary. So something will be coming in the fall.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I was just thinking there's an idea of using the Stillman, leadership kids or any kids in the program to recruit at their own high school. Because I know we got the Seton Hall because one of her professors asked my daughter, have you ever considered Seton Hall? And she's the only one from there. I go, wait a second. You guys know about Seton Hall? You don't believe how good this is. I was talking to the school. But I wonder the other way, if you proactively say, you guys are our ambassadors. You got to take a day back, get with your high school, and sell the school. You all love it. Bring them in. I said, there's a big gap there. There's 300 kids. I'm like, she's the only one going to Seton Hall.
And you're absolutely right, because once we start, and it's interesting how it works, once we start getting a couple of students from high school, then you see more and more coming. So I know that there were some from Nebraska who were coming, from the same high school. And I was thinking, how is this high school from Nebraska sending us students repeatedly year after year? And it's because, yeah, they have a good experience. So I think that's a terrific idea. And something that we could put as a project for, again, leadership, Dean's Advisory Committee, some of our clubs. I think that's wonderful. Because what we found over the years is that our open houses become more compelling if there's students there. One of the best sessions at the open house is a student panelist. And we used to think, because we do get a lot of faculty out, we'll probably have 17, 18 faculty members and administrators at an open house. But we now say, and bring a couple of your students with you. Because the high school students want to talk to the students, and the parents want to talk to the students directly and see what's up. I'm sorry, you had a question?
I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for the reason that Sergio's here. I'll tell you my story about my son Sergio. My husband is a pilot, graduated in we were married here on campus. My oldest son is graduating this year with a degree in physics. And we really didn't know much about Stillman because they were both arts and science majors, and one of my son's friends, is a Stillman grad. And Sergio got accepted to 3 schools, one of the schools that you mentioned, another school in Seton Hall, and we couldn't make a decision. You took 2 hours of your day, I don't know if you remember our phone call, probably the end of December, right before break, beginning of January, and I said to you, Dean, he's went to Queen of Peace High School, he's got these credits that he can bring to Seton Hall. This school's offering this school's offering that, and you took the time to sit down on the phone with me and say, we offer this for Sergio, we will offer this for Sergio, we will offer this for Sergio. So as far as you saying hands-on and your faculty, I think you're the biggest and brightest star of Stillman because you take the time to the parents. My son has committed, and you're the reason he's here.
It's so kind of you to say.
But it
and,
is.
And I love the work that I do. To me, it's like having more kids that I don't have to worry about paying for.
You seem to have a lot of fun.
They're fun. And it's really an enjoyable job. I love the job that I do, but I have to say that it's all about, I get to stand up and take the credit for the good things, but it's really all about the faculty. It's all about what they do every day in the classes.
But I called the other 2 schools, and you're the only one who took the time.
Well,
That's why I wanted to give you kudos.
See, we really wanted him.
Yeah, I just wanted to say.
And I often, one of my colleagues says, I made this remark one time at an open house, and I said, I've got 18 colleagues with me today. They're here because they want to get the very best students. So when you're in an open house, the next open house strategy, count how many faculty there are. Because if they're not here when we're trying to buy you into this or sell you on us, where are they going to be when you're trying to find a job? So I made that comment, and my colleague said, that's a little hard sell, back off that. So I did back off that. Thunder?
Joyce, is it possible that we can share that email that you sent out to students on Sundays to parents? Is that something?
Sure.
That'd be a good idea.
If you would, you know what, I tell you what, on every table, I've left a little volunteer sheet. If you would like to be on the email list, just add your email and put a little note that you'd like to be on the email list. You'll see, I try to do creative graphics each week of something that's going on.
Yeah. In terms of the students that you're looking for, I mean, I'm under the impression that each year is getting more difficult to get into certain schools. Can you address that? Because I know the numbers that apply are higher, and you pretty much do want the brightest students.
Right. Well, it's interesting because we haven't changed at all our requirements for admission. We are tending to get better students. So in the last 3-4 years, our minimum requirements for admission into Stillman haven't changed, but we just get applicants who have a higher profile, and we're attracting better students. Now, our admission to the leadership program has definitely got more competitive, because that's an amount we cap. And it's been, and any of you who are parents of students in leadership know that Mike Reuter, who's director, and by the way, who's also really involved with all other students. He's such a kind-hearted person that anytime he has to turn someone down, he feels so bad about it. And I said, Mike, this is one of the difficult things about being more competitive. So we're going to have to say, I'm sorry to a lot of students who we would have taken before, and to some gifted and talented students. But yes, it is getting more competitive, and it's interesting that even though we haven't changed our standards, we're just... Yeah. Well, for leadership, we definitely have, But yeah, I'd be happy to share the weekly email. You probably see, from time to time, what I do is I try to share some accolades, some good things that are going on, share news, and then I always have a week ahead, what's going on in the coming week. It may be a little quiet, well, certainly it'll be quiet during spring break, but we always have many things going on each week. And I'd love to hear your comments about anything that's going on. I was speaking on the phone to a mother just the other day, and I said, she was asking some question about her son getting more involved and doing different things, and I said, well, and there's also this weekly update, and she said, yeah, I had his password because I was paying some bills, so I saw your update. Any other questions that I can answer, or things that you'd like to comment on? I'd love to hear your feedback. Anything we could be doing better. Another big thing that I'd like to have is, I really think it's time to get new furniture in the classroom buildings. So that's something students have told us. It was very funny. We did last year a focus group to get a sense of, from students using our market research center, how we can continue to make Stillman go from good, solid experience to a wow. What we want is, with every student who graduates, we want them to have 4 or 5 wows in their experience, 4 or 5 things that they say, this was just unbelievable. And so we were doing this focus group, and one group, for whatever reason, they asked a question, what would you do if you were dean for the day? And this young man went on very eloquently about how he thought the furniture in the classroom really wasn't what it could be, and it might be turning off prospective students. And so he says, yeah, he says, I think if I were dean, I'd buy new furniture.
I'll comment on that. Our daughter is going to go to New King's University next year in Pittsburgh. You don't have to cross, they do. But when we visited in December in the business school, they are redoing all the furniture and lounges floor by floor. And you could see, she attended some classes in December, and we talked to some of the students, and they love the fact that the renovation, and you could tell, some of the classrooms have the old type of furniture and desks that you have here, and the floors that were renovated, and you could see the kids were really hanging out in between classes. They had some really nice lounges, and it seemed to make a difference to them.
Right. Oh no, I think it makes a big difference. And it's one of those things that's really expensive.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of the whole scheme of things. So that's something I'm really pushing for. That may be part of our 65 campaign. Anything else?
My daughter, I think it was this past week, went to this school. I'm not sure what the event date is, where the companies come in and the students, the upperclassmen, and she was recommended by the Career Center to go as a freshman just to observe. She said she looks like she knows that stuff, and she walked around, she just kind of watched. And she said it was intimidating, but she said it was so wonderful to see what she needs to do and what happens, because she now knows. So the next time she goes as a sophomore, she won't be intimidated, she'll know how to prepare. She's kind of listening in as she went around, and she said she was listening to the questions that the businesses were asking the students, and the businesses were actually asking them. So it was a great experience, and as freshmen, we're saying, we were talking with the Career Center, it's amazing if you can get them to walk in that door early, right? And you convince them that there's a process over 4 years, not just the last year. But that was a great opportunity for, even though she couldn't really engage in it just yet, but to see what happens and to see what companies were there. I think it gives them a little boost.
Yes.
To see what opportunities will be there.
And I think it's so interesting too, because many of the employers will see that there's a freshman and they will ask that freshman for his or her. And we do have, by the way, Stillman business cards, and we have pet folios that we sell, so that they're all accessorized for any kind of interactions they have. But, employers will say, the freshman will take the card, because that's the kind of go-getter they're looking for. The person who's going to really reach out early and try to get into that experience. And any time students raise their hand to volunteer to be part of something, I think it does make a very strong impression, a strong statement about them and who they are. And, you can picture it. That's the type of person you want working for you, somebody who's going to be out in front of everything. So I do think that's great. It was the marketing.
Yes, she heard it. She loved it. That was great.
Anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. We went beyond the hard stop. I'm sorry.
Any other questions or no? Well, thank you, Dean Strawser.
cards if you'd like to give time, if you have internship opportunities, like to host an event, we'd be happy to have you, so complete those. If you'd like to be on our event list, we'll do that as well.